But
You
we're
gotta
gonna take
get
a
the
picture.
pictures, yeah.
Good evening, everyone. It's indeed a pleasure for me to come out of retirement to perform a very wonderful thing, and that is to administer the oath of office to my very dear friend, Pablo Cedillo. Now, I was in Washington, D.C. from the mid-'60s till the mid-'70s, and Pablo and Dorothy lived there. And we got to be very close friends and have remained ever since. And Dorothy, I want to thank you again, because when you'd have me over and food, oh, that always made my day. And thank God that now we're back in God's country and we can have this food every day. Now, I remember during those days, your children were teenagers. And I see Pablo Jr. here. He's chief of corrections for the city, and his wife is here. Time has come, and we have shared happy and joyous times together. But also, we have shared sad times together. But that is what friendship is all about. And I'm glad I was here with you and for you in the good times and in the sad times. Let me say, members of the board, Chair, Mr. President, and everyone present here, that today I am swearing in a man of integrity, a man of experience, a man of maturity, and very important, a man of collegiality, because collegiality is so important to keep an institution like this moving towards its mission, and everybody recognizes and acknowledges and loves that mission. And every now and then, you all don't agree on everything, but that's how it is. Like on the Supreme Court, we didn't agree on everything all the time, but collegiality always kept us together. And so I know you will bring those qualities to this board, Paul. And you have already made us so proud, but you'll continue to make us even prouder. And I was informed that this year is the 30th anniversary of the community college. So I'm going to share something with you that occurred 30 years ago. Now, I had been appointed by Governor Tony Anaya to the Board of Higher Educational Finance, and they funded universities and community colleges throughout the state. And we were meeting in Portales at Eastern and on approving budgets. And President Witter, and I worked closely with him, the board was leaning towards only allocating $1 million towards starting the college. But no, we wanted $3 million. But we had it worked out so that when we were at the meeting, somebody came in and said, there's a call from Governor Anaya for Pat Cerna, because I wasn't the justice then. And so I went and took the call. My gosh, the governor. And they all were very curious, of course. And so I stayed out a while, and then I came back in. And they were very curious. Well, what did the governor want? And I said, well, he wants $3 million for the Santa Fe Community College. And that stopped all the conversation of only giving you all $1 million. And oh, President Witter was eternally grateful and a dear friend of mine. But so I did play a role in in establishing this
All right.
community college, and you've gone so far. I mean, look at this beautiful campus, driving up and walking around. It's the best in the state, and with the best people all across the board. And one of the finest is joining you today. And so now it's my distinct pleasure to administer the oath of office. Paul, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Pablo Cedillo,
I, Pablo Cedillo,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States of America
the Constitution of the United States of America,
and the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the State of New Mexico,
of the State of New Mexico,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of the office
of
member,
member,
Santa Fe Community College Board,
Santa Fe Community College Board,
Santa Fe, New Mexico,
Santa Fe, New Mexico,
which I am about to enter
which I'm about to enter
according to law
according to law
and to the best of my ability.
and to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
All right.
And of course, we're going to include the order from the Supreme Court signed by our Chief Justice, Petra Jimenez Mayes, whom I served with for 16 years on the court and also almost felt on the district court.
All right.
So all I have to do is call her and issue the order.
Chair, members of the committee, I'd like to say just a few words. I don't want to delay this much longer. But first of all, I want to pledge to this governing board, to the people of the district, district of the Santa Fe Community College, that I will do my best to enhance the mission of the college, to make sure that our students come first, and our faculty and our staff that are so dedicated. And I am so pleased that I'm joining a distinguished board and a distinguished interim president whom I have great faith in and worked very well with him in the past years. So, and briefly, I'd like to introduce my family. My oldest son, Pablo, who is director of public safety, Santa Fe County. My daughter-in-law, Angela, and of course, a big surprise, Maria. Maria is from Clovis, and she is the director and owner of a Montessori school. And her tell me again, what is it? Education? Making a difference in education. And she has 17 years as a Montessori director and teacher. She is making a difference in Clovis, New Mexico. And of course, my beautiful granddaughter, Gabriela. I'm so nervous, Gabriela, that I just, every time I see you. But they drove from Clovis just for this event.
Oh, that's nice.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you to my family. And Dorothy, I want to thank you for all of the years that you've supported me in all the endeavors that I've had. Thank you.
Can we take a break? Yeah, why don't we just take a little 5-minute break?
Quick break. Second. You're going to take a 5-minute? And we'll be right back.
All right.
We're the old faithful. Is there anything we need to move?
I don't think so.
We already adopted the agenda, so I think
Right. We're good.
Okay,
No, we didn't.
Okay.
all set. We're going to continue with the agenda. And so we have the president's report. And so President Grissom, take over.
Chair Beta, members of the board, I'm just going to give a couple of quick updates. As you know, the legislature just ended recently, and the governor has taken her actions. For the most part, we came out pretty well. We have about $608,000 in new money for ING. We have about $310,000 in capital outlay funding, some of which is for the microgrid and trades projects, some of which is for the TV station. She did veto the $150,000 in operating dollars for the microgrid project and the $160-something thousand for the IBES program. But we also got $237,000 for the nursing program, and that's going to allow us to hire 2 more nursing faculty and a person to be the technical person on a permanent basis in the sim lab. So we're really excited about that. So that's all being factored into our budget processes, and you're going to hear a little bit more about that tomorrow. Just to let you know, tomorrow afternoon we have some representatives from Los Alamos National Lab coming down. We're exploring the possibility of a hydro energy storage project on campus that would be work in conjunction, if it happened, with the PV array, and could give us some storage capacity, which could help us even out the peaks, and but also be a training opportunity. And related to that, we've been asking, we're participating with UNM on a $7.5 million EPSCoR grant that's focused, for them, it's on their energy center. For us, it would be the microgrid project. So we think that there's going to be 3 or 4 awarded, and there's only 7 states that are eligible, and we are the designee through UNM as an applicant.
Oh, great.
Just want to remind you, tomorrow we have a special event commemorating the 60th anniversary of the film Salt of the Earth. There's going to be a panel discussion at 3 o'clock, and then the film is going to be shown in room 216, which is the lecture hall. We have a legal fair going on this weekend at the Chavez Center. We're hosting the New Mexico Quality Matters Conference in April. And also in April, we're having a Taste of Italy fundraiser for the students who are going to Italy and for their advanced culinary studies. So anybody's interested in helping out, tickets are going to be on sale through the foundation. They're $50, and the event is going to be on April the 23rd. We've been getting started with the AARP grant. They've been doing some information sessions there. Just to remind you, we're going to help have $165,000 worth of scholarship funds, and we'll be working with over 50 women who are returning to the workplace. And I talked about the EPSCoR grant we're writing, but we just received 2 EPSCoR grants. One for $50,000, I believe the other was for $30,000. They're both for our biofuels program. We're actually getting paid to do some applied research in algal research. And so we're excited about that.
Like algae?
It's, yeah, except it's algal. And then one of our film program instructors, David Brownlow, if you didn't hear about this, he was also on our advisory committee. He was nominated for an Academy Award for sound design for the film Lone Survivor recently. Unfortunately, he didn't get the Academy Award, but we have other Academy Award winners who I think teach for us still. So we've got a pretty stellar class of people teaching in our film program. So that's a quick summary from a president's report. Let me do the employee of the month. We have the pass it forward. Is either Paul or Joanne here?
No, Paul was not able to come, and Joanne sent a statement. She was not able to come either. She said, I thank Paul and all of SFCC for the honor of Pass It Forward. It is a wonderful surprise, and I appreciate the support of all my coworkers.
Right, so that was the Pass It Forward Award.
That was Pass It Forward, yeah.
And then on the Wellgram, Isaac Garcia nominated Monique Nair. I know Monique is here. Is Isaac here?
Isaac is not here. Come on up. Isaac wrote on his nomination of Monique in big letters, she is wonderful. She's incredibly genuine, and she has helped me so much. Big exclamation point.
And I was very excited because I was like, wow, a student giving me an award. And I guess that's unusual. Ken told me that's a little
It is
unusual.
unusual.
Yeah. So I was so happy to receive this, and I think I'm going to frame it because it's really exciting when a student is telling you you're doing the right thing. So thank you very much.
And you got the wow grams, you were wowed.
I did. I got definitely wowed. It's been a joke, running joke in the department right now. But so anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's my report.
Okay, thank you, Randy. Donna, do we have any public comments?
We do. Ruth Ramos? Come on up.
Hi, good evening. Ruth Ramos, I'm the senator for the Science, Health Sciences, and Math schools. And I just wanted to shine some light on something that came across my way. SFCC has an agreement with La Familia because they service the Santa Fe community. However, it is my understanding that the space they hold and the equipment belongs to the college. We could provide services to students for care screenings, that type of thing, because we do have the resources and the manpower. The health services van trailer right now is only currently being used for marketing purposes. No care is being given out using the trailer. And I know that we have licensed professionals who could provide this care, and these professionals come both from our faculty, staff, and students. We're training quite a bit of health allied services people that are going to go out into the workforce, that are going to do the work, and we could start giving back to our own community here with our own students. I think these resources, equipment, and space is not being used right now, and I just wanted to shine a light on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have one other, Jenny Landon, also.
Thank you.
Good evening. I wish Ruth would have come talk to me first, but I wanted to let everybody know that we actually are planning on adding student health services. Randy and I in the fall met with the CEO of La Familia, and it has been a passion of mine since I've been here for the last 5 years to do the same thing. So we are collaborating with them. We are beginning the work for an MOU. And we are hoping, don't quote me on this, but we are hoping to start some sort of limited services even as soon as this fall. So I wanted to let everybody know that. And the other thing I should say is that we have decided recently within the council structure to form a committee that would consist of faculty, staff, and students to help us go through the process to get their input and their feedback. So we certainly would encourage, and I would love to have somebody like Ruth who just spoke on that committee. So we'll keep you posted on our progress.
Thank you. Okay, any other, no other public comments? All right, so now we go to tab C with communications, faculty senate report. Looks like we have 4 people reporting.
We're all together.
There was a 5th. Did he leave?
We lost Greg, unfortunately, to he had I think another board meeting actually, or something going on Skype. Several things on the agenda. This is Ms. Carlos Lentz, then, who is Communications Officer for Faculty Senate. We've probably already been introduced. Ms. Phyllis Baca, who is Treasurer and Secretary for this iteration of Faculty Senate, and Ms. Nancy Uvalle Ordonez, who is one of our adjunct representatives. And just want to try to get the occasion to introduce some people actually to the new board member and to present a little broader face. I'm usually here by myself, and it's good for you to see other people, I think. Taking the occasion this evening then to read a statement into record on behalf of the officers of Faculty Senate, which is myself, Mr. Greg Dye, Carla, Phyllis, Nancy, and Ms. Margaret Hopkins, who could not be with us tonight. Greg was going to read it and was able to get to his Skype interview. Dear members of the Santa Fe Community College Governing Board, the Faculty Senate officers wish to express our sincerest gratitude for your board service and principled leadership to Santa Fe Community College. The talent and expertise you have contributed is treasured and vital to the growth and sustainability of our first-rate college. It is important to note that for 40 years, this college has been a labor of love by many individuals who reside here in Santa Fe and northern New Mexico. The past year has presented challenges, but your conscientious perseverance and leadership has directed the college through that difficult time. We understand that a good deal of personal time and resources were directed towards the solution. And we want the governing board to know that these efforts are widely acknowledged both on campus and in the community. On behalf of the faculty and the students that we serve, we wish to express we are looking forward to continuing our joint effort towards SFCC's mission as an exceptional institution serving all people in Santa Fe and northern New Mexico. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before you, I believe, are two sets of minutes. There's a signed copy of this, actually, by the Faculty Senate officers, which I'll provide to the transcriber, Ms. Donna Wells. I guess starting then with the February 14th minutes, if there's any questions, there's some adjunct faculty survey results, the conversation that went on there. Ms. Nancy Uvalle Ordonez actually was a key member of that process, along with in Mr. Yosh Morimoto's office, defining that. I'd like to give her the opportunity to maybe address some points of, clarification before we separate from this setting. I've got another set of minutes that we can read. And anything you'd like to say for the adjunct contingency, that would be great. No. Faculty development was discussed in that meeting, and I shared that kind of off the cuff, I think, in the last meeting, per se. If there's not any questions there, I would like to move on to the next set of minutes.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What kind of faculty development is provided for adjunct faculty?
Microphone.
We don't have a specific professional development for adjuncts. We have some workshop maybe that is the one that is provided for the regular full-time faculty.
So they're invited?
We are invited, yes. But sometimes, of course, an adjunct is not here all the time at the college, so they cannot attend. And the only other information is during convocation time, that also is like 20% of attendance of the adjuncts that will come. But usually there is no professional development.
Are you on, you have access to Jack? So
Yes.
you can find out what's going on at the college at any given time?
Yes, we have access to Jack and information through the department, and now with the Faculty Senate, as we also provide information to the adjuncts.
Any other questions? No.
Well, just one. So will you be proposing some ideas through our various structures for adjunct training and development, or?
Some of that, thank you, that is emerging through, I think, the survey process that Mr. Morimoto is presenting you some this evening. I think there's a lot of room as a college here where we can collectively take a leadership role in this. That of how that's defined, we have some ability to focus that collectively as an institution. The conversation is that it could be more directed at the programmatic or department level, specific to pedagogy, trying to give opportunity to adjuncts to. The conversation, frankly, is that this college probably will not have the resources to create enough professional positions to absorb all the people in this college who would like to have a career in education. But I think we can probably, the conversation leads to a position of belief that we can begin to provide a more supportive learning environment for our faculty to help to build their careers, to be able to participate or apply for more jobs in the positions elsewhere. That would involve probably some teaching of other courses than being assigned the same ones consistently, being more integrated into departmental meetings and decisions, and there's certainly just some things that we do. We get busy, essentially, everybody gets busy, and then the status quo seems to develop, and we still stay in our trenches and kind of doing what we're doing on a regular basis. And I think it would be helpful for the college, and we've spoken with Randy about it, who's been very supportive and understanding, of trying to see what else that we can do that won't require the huge amount of money necessarily, but begin to integrate the people who wish to be involved in it more in the profession of the learning process. It became apparent, I think, in discussing the adjunct survey with Mr. Mordo, and Nancy was a key member of that process, that it seemed to be, there were about 103 respondents, I believe, to the survey, and about 20 to 30% of those individuals that responded seemed to be asking for a more integrative and responsible position in the profession. You know, not everybody wanted to. They're coming in from another role in their home or society or their workplace. But 20 to 30% is, you know, those are people that are our educators and that are looking for ways to grow within our profession. And the more that we can provide support and understanding and engagement and involvement, it supports our students, the mission of the college. Yeah.
And my experience is that that really greatly enhances student success.
Thank you.
Yeah. Can I add a little bit to that?
Yeah.
Because of my involvement in Faculty Senate and being involved with the adjuncts in it, I have access to a lot of funds through STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. So everything now that we're sending out, there's a lot of funding for faculty development. We're making sure that each of the chairs, whoever gets it, sends it to all of their adjuncts as well. So that's one way of just, again, integrating in the awareness. Do include adjunct. We have adjuncts now on our agenda. We're just being able to include and integrate an awareness is going to help the situation somewhat. Thank you.
Mark, what does the Faculty Senate feel is the ideal amount of students in a class?
That probably depends on the nature of the class itself. Like an online class would have a different course load to it. A studio class, when the arts, typically the resources are availably met at about 15 right. per se. Humanities, art history, English history, those probably go to 30. And so it's dependent, I think, on...
You feel 30 is okay?
In that meeting, I think what that refers to, Chairman Abeyta, thank you for asking, is that apparently enrollment figures were adjusted upward without discourse or input from the faculty members that were involved in it. And so then things such as enrollment figures, curriculum, advising, all of those are issues that should have the courtesy of full communication with the faculty. What is the appropriate level of engagement for? It's increasing of a workload. And you know, that in itself is not a bad thing, but it needs to be taken into measure of what is it taking away from.
Having taught classes at Northern and been in the same thing, I totally support. I don't like 30 students in a class. Sorry. I think that, you know, it should be 25 or less or something, that because of the workload. But not only that, but that the teacher be able to give the time to each student that they deserve, you know, and the bigger the class, the less time for the student. And as a teacher that I was up at Northern, I just feel that those are such important things. And it's sorry, you know, I think that it's whatever the reason, whether it be economic or, you know, financial. I don't feel comfortable with that, and I just want you to know that I support lower numbers in a classroom, because it really affects the quality of that the student is getting, and I mean we know that as teachers, and it's really important.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Senor.
If I may, I value a great deal the adjunct faculty. I think it's an important part of our educational system, whether it be in a community college or elsewhere. And it seems to me, I don't know, maybe I'm not hearing you correctly, but it seems to me that there ought to be a more integrated, more structural way of addressing some of these communication deficiencies within the adjunct faculty and the faculty. Mm-hmm. So, is that an issue, you think?
It's key, yes.
Thank you. Yeah, I would like to answer to that. Yeah, I wanted to express, first of all, thank you to Judge Morimoto and the Office of OPI, because the survey that was done and well structured, and you are going to see the results of that survey. And let me tell you, this is the first time a survey is done here at the community college related to our adjuncts. It's the first time that really the institution is talking to adjuncts. We started, actually, I have been here for almost 10 years because I like to teach and I like to be an adjunct. That's what, I don't need to do other things. Fortunately, some other colleagues are not in that situation. They really need a job. And as you are going to see in the survey results, we have a different backgrounds of adjuncts. We are coming from different areas and different economical and professional backgrounds. But most of us have a lot more than 5 years of experience in our fields and in the teaching fields. So last year, we have finally the first meeting with the president of the community college. So when we started presenting these ideas about the inequality that we were suffering, not suffering, but that the situation for the adjuncts, like a very small office space, not enough computers to work, private space to meet with the students. Even though we are not required to have office hours, we do it because we care about the students. So we meet with them, and sometimes we have to do it in the cafeteria, in the hall, wherever we can do it. Okay, so thanks to the survey results and Mr. Morimoto, we are seeing, I think we are going to see some changes in that structure. And what we were asking last year, and with the support of the Faculty Senate, is to prepare an action quality project to address all these issues of the adjuncts, and in the future create a body of core adjunct based on good evaluations, and good performance, and feedback and participation in departmental meetings, etc., so that we can retain the best adjuncts and offer them a contract that is longer, like maybe 1 year contract, so that we don't have to stay waiting 2 weeks before the semester starts if we have the class or not. Because the students suffer, they never know who is going to do the class sometimes. We know that sometimes it doesn't make the class, we don't have the class. We understand that, but the students need to know also that situation. So if we have an adjunct that is good, we want to retain it. I think it's good for the institution, it's good for the students, because the student success, the students, they need to have that, the ability that the professor is available for them if they have questions, if they have tutoring, etc. And being an adjunct, we just come, teach, and leave. And that's the only thing that we can do. So yeah, there is not enough communication. Fortunately, this last year and this year, things are changing, and we hope. Last year, we have the first time that the community college participated in the Campus Equity Week, and we collected more than 100 signatures from the students supporting the change in the situation of the adjuncts, and we are going to present that to Jill Carson, that is in charge of the AQUIT processes. And so we are going to see what is going to happen.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
It has to be more than just a report of the survey. I think there has to be a plan of action, some outcomes, some things that we can measure how we're doing, how we're going to strengthen. And you talked about diversity. I think that's very important. That strengthens the education of our students. So I would encourage you to work, not only the report, but certainly a plan of action.
Yes, well, first of all, you have to remember I'm just an adjunct.
Well,
I cannot do it myself, so that's what we are asking, that is the institution, the Santa Fe Community College, taking a stronger role, integrating adjuncts into the communication, into the decisions, into the education of the students. I think it's not fair to ask adjuncts to do it, because we can come here and maybe tomorrow we are not going to be here. But I think it's part of the institution, it's part of the organization to take about its employees in order to do a good service to the students. So this is the first time that we are doing it, and I hope really that in the future, like in 4 years, we will have finally a body of core adjunct and everybody will be better workers in here. Thank you.
Randy?
Mr. Chair and Member Cedillo, I'm going to make a few more comments after Yash makes his presentation on the adjunct faculty survey. But we are implementing a lot of things already. We're working on a lot. We are going to do some kind of project for adjuncts. We're not sure whether it's going to be an AQUIP action project or just some type of action project in-house. We're still working on that. But I'll talk after you see the results of the survey. I'll talk about some of the things we're already starting in place, some of which you may not even know about yet because I haven't been able to announce them. But we're taking this seriously. We value our adjunct faculty. We've got to figure out a way to support them, show them the respect they deserve. But as we've talked about, we've also got to be aware of the budget issues involved in it. And it's a balancing act, and we've got to figure out how to do that best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just would like to really thank the adjuncts for being so supportive, for administration being supportive. Nancy, Jessica Lawless, who we did just recently lose, Megan, they're the ones who were instrumental this past year bringing it forward to Faculty Senate, making sure there was actions, putting in a solid action project proposal, getting the survey done, and then again the next steps that Randy's going to be talking about. But it was there was 3 women who were instrumental showing up to Faculty Senate, making sure we were all aware of it, and getting this process moved over the last year. Because before that, there's 15 topics to talk about, and these 3 were the ones who just made it happen. So good job, Nancy. Thank you. Thank you.
Persistence pays off.
Yes.
Good.
Minutes of February 28th, 2014. Departure of Jessica Lawless there, who's taken a new position with SEIU, then in Oakland, California, Service Employees International Union, to assist with the adjunct faculty situation within California. It's really part of a national conversation that's occurring within this part of the faculty experience and students' lives. Point 2, AAUP representative, which is the American Association of University Professors. Actually, Mr. Jason Elias paid us a visit, and I'll just kind of push through here a little bit. If you have any specific questions, I'd be glad to address them, or anything that you want to add, please do so. Rights of contingent faculty, which the AAUP defines as non-tenured professors or profession, and so in that sense, all of SFCC's faculty are contingent. We have no guarantee of employment. We do have a rolling contract, which is better, and we're grateful for that, but just to define that point. That they place a large effort in, as you can see, then supporting the economic security of the profession, including intellectual property, rights of contingent faculty, and the shared governance process. Mr. Elias then describing an AAUP advocacy chapter, which we have the membership now to form. A minimum of 7 is required. I think we're probably at about 15 or 16 signed on members. Is an independent body from Faculty Senate. An advocacy chapter is not a union, it is a professional association. An advocacy chapter can function as the conscience of a Faculty Senate. Can be a unifying force within Faculty Senate, and also provides faculty the space to work and operate without Robert Rules of Order. That can be a much more open debate, and it can take other initiatives. That Faculty Senate is the way I interpret it in that sense is a part of the shared governance process as defined in board policy. And so it is part of the formal organizational structure of that procedure within this institution. An advocacy chapter probably has a little bit more freedom to operate within various other things. Some things that have been advised that it can award awards or give recognition to faculty or students who are doing, exceptional duty. It can operate within other processes. It's a place for full-time and adjunct faculty to come together, and the AAUP can help inform and advise faculty through there. An advocacy chapter can also issue a position statement or a white paper. Other topics then, as discussed, Colorado had introduced a bill that seeks pay equity between adjunct and full-time duties. Mr. Elias recognized that we may be in a transition period with the departure of our outgoing president. Several faculty present at the meeting spoke to the difficulty of the past year within SFCC. I'd like to think we're out of that and moving forward here. Faculty should have a formative role in creating new direction for the college. New faculty hires need to go through a full committee hiring review with faculty and department opinions contributing directly to the final hiring decision. This is important for faculty to be able to identify curriculum and departmental needs within education, that you have the ability to speak to the development of what your peers are within the department and defining those needs and working as a collaborative body. Noticing that SFCC policies are under review and the AAUP has expressed an interest or availability in assisting in review process, faculty needs to be fully included in the process, essentially. They offer a comprehensive red book, it's colloquially referred to, with several position statements advising on interactions, positive, collaborative, formative interactions and communication at all level within the college between board, faculty, students, administration, that everybody is able to communicate directly and understand what different roles we all serve in this project, right? AAUP can also advise and support input towards legislative support at a state level for education regionally and nationally. And the AAUP is a dues-supported organization, primarily being a professional organization, a foundation, and then union dues that participate in part of that. And Mr. Elias will be revisiting us then on April the 4th. There's a slight typo there, I believe. So. And that kind of gets the news. Any questions?
Where is he based? Is he New Mexico?
Los Angeles. Yep. So he's regional, California, Nevada, Western region, Oregon, Washington, Arizona, Colorado, us.
Thank you.
Yep.
I see the AAUP as a very positive step in really bringing some other ideas to the campus and to the faculty. So I'm really glad you all took that step.
Thank you. It's exciting. It's introducing new element of dialogue and raises the level of professionalism and expectation, I think, on our own part to learn how to communicate effectively and participate more fully as best we can for the project that we're committed our professional lives to. So.
Thank you.
So, anything?
Any other questions? Good. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Staff Senate? Hi.
Good evening, everyone. Chair Beta, Mr. President, board members, welcome. Board member Cedillo. Zuby couldn't be here with us this evening, and as usual, I feel like a, sort of meek follow-up to the exciting Faculty Senate presentation, but I'll do the best I can. You actually, you had 4 sets of minutes attached to the agenda, and I think a couple of them might be duplicates from the previous meeting, and I apologize about that. We have had one meeting since the last set of minutes that you have, and the areas of focus are the same. We are working on, we've developed a draft of a new Staff Senate Constitution. And again, the focus of that is to have kind of along the same lines as the policies and procedures efforts that we're trying to streamline, that the Constitution would be sort of the creation document for the body, subject to the board's approval, and then we would have more management type things in a set of bylaws, so that every time, if we decide to change minor things, everything doesn't have to come back to the board for change, because currently all we have is the Constitution. We were going to try very hard to get a vote on that before the break, and we ran into some time snags with getting the translation of the draft Constitution into Spanish, and we feel like it's extremely important that the Spanish language version be available, so that our folks here who are employed here at the college who are Spanish speakers have the opportunity to really participate fully and understand what it is that we're proposing in the Constitution. So we're hoping to get that the vote on the new Constitution off in the next few weeks. The other area of focus has really been on participation in Staff Senate. A subcommittee was formed to look at various ways to increase participation in Staff Senate, and to really help the staff here at the college understand the value of their participation in Staff Senate. And we went through a period where we had an extremely active and vibrant and multi-viewed participation, and then of course, as always, right, when there is controversy, there is suddenly people get a little more vocal. But it's really important that we have increased participation, and that more importantly that if people individually cannot participate, that they have representation, so that issues come to the Staff Senate, and then the material that's discussed in the Staff Senate is brought back. So a number of suggestions were put forth, and that committee has worked. We've now had a couple meetings since they made their initial presentation, and we've started to put together kind of a plan of action on how to really promote the importance of Staff Senate. And I think now with the sort of reemergence of the Governance Council under the shared governance policy, it's all that much more important that, that the folks who serve on the Governance Council are really representing a broad voice from across the staff. So that's our other area of focus. The third thing is, as I believe you've heard, I will be stepping down as co-chair of Staff Senate, because I will be leaving the college for a time. And maybe you all haven't heard. So I will be leaving for a time, and so I did step down as chair. But then we're now faced with the election of a new co-chair. And one of the issues that we have with our Constitution, which is quite an older document, is that we don't have a really good defined process for what happens when an officer position becomes vacant, and how to quite handle that. So we will have elections again in the fall for officers, and we do have somebody who is seriously considering stepping in the interim position, but that's something that we'll be working out in the next little while as well. So those are the things that we've been focusing on. But it's the situation of having to replace the co-chair is another thing that really drives home for us the importance of having those bylaws fleshed out. So we have some clear processes for how to handle these things.
President Grissom?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, the board, I want to thank Susan for all the work that she's done here over the years. The testing center, Staff Senate, but especially the last year with the strategic plan and all the work on the budget process. I think we've gotten something really started here. I think many of us are jealous of the fact that she and her husband are going to do some world traveling here over the next year or so, and we hope she is going to come back to us after she finishes those journeys. It's been a pleasure working with you, Susan, and I hope I'm still here when you come back.
You too, Randy.
I hope you come back.
Thanks.
So anyway,
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
I have a comment.
Yeah.
I noticed on one of the minutes that it included the Faculty Senate. Is that normal that Faculty Senate and Staff Senate have joint meetings, or do you go to their meetings and vice versa?
It's not normal, although it's something that we've discussed doing maybe like once a semester to meet together. This was after the the Senates usually meet right after the initial major convocation meeting, and we arranged this time to have meetings so that we would
Super,
be
I think
together.
that's great.
Yeah, yeah.
Art?
There has been a regular tradition of that. We haven't done it probably regularly as we could have, should have frequently within the past 2 years, but it goes back a long way to get back together and to understand where, there's common interests again for the success of the students in the institution.
Cool. Thanks. Good luck. Have fun. Students.
Oh, now I'm a student, huh?
Student government.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone enjoyed their spring break. I'm happy to announce that I married my partner over spring break of 10 years.
Yay.
So, I'm a newlywed. I want to announce we have 2 new senators. We have Alex Mitchell from Liberal Arts and Ruth Ramos from Health and Science. We're also going to be presenting a revised SGA Constitution within the next week to our SGA representatives, and by next meeting we should have it here for your guys to vote on it. So, then Spring Fling is April 30th from from 11 until 2. Food will be served at 11:30.
Yeah.
And it's
Get in line early.
Yep. And student development paid for it. There will also be a photo booth and music, which it doesn't cost anything for the photo booth, but we're asking for donations. What was it? Hold on, sorry, I lost my spot. Oh, and we're trying to find performers to play at the event. Biofuels Club Fund request for $300 for Earth Week was granted today. The Soy Solution Water Harvesting Workshop, their funds was request for $1,500 was granted on either the 12th or 13th. And the ambassadors have a dance every Friday, 7 to 10, in the East Wing Eatery for fundraising, so that's a fun thing to attend. And also SGA are holding elections for new executive positions next month. So we're looking for, it's on April 23rd and 24th, and we're looking for volunteers to man the table since student can't, so please contact Janet Berry if you're interested. And that's it.
Question.
Yes.
What's going on for Cinco de Mayo?
Actually, we didn't plan anything for that one.
Okay.
But we still have time.
Yeah. Well, it's having been in that department and having worked with students, to me, because they didn't have it for so many years, I think it's very critical. It's a good open door to Hispanic culture. It's an open door throughout the entire nation for people to understand more. It's not just a beer drinking day. It really is a day for just awareness. So I hope that it's not forgotten.
I could see what we could do about doing a little something.
Super. I think more than a little something that I'm really an advocate, man. To me, it's super important, simply because the majority of our students son Hispanos, and they deserve it. So,
I agree.
Anyway, good. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to tab D, and that'll be the approval of consent agenda from board meeting February 4th, special closed board meeting February 10th, a work session February 18th. I didn't know that we had to approve work sessions. Did we? We do. We do? Okay. Am I out of touch or something or what? Okay, and a regular board meeting from February the 18th. So I'd like to have a motion, is there a motion to approve those minutes?
We approve the minutes.
Second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? to any of the, all right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Thank you. There's no tab E, and it doesn't look like there's, oh yeah. All right, Brian, we're gonna go right into approval of financial report.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, members of the board. Welcome, Member Cedillo. Grateful for your presence. Just for the sake of time, I'm pleased to tell the board that operations, financial operations of the institution continue to be nominal in February and March, which is to say there are no surprises and nothing that the board has not already been advised to expect. So let me give you a few top-down points. I'll be as brief as possible, and then I'll just open the floor for questions, and I can respond to your questions. We're at the point in the year where I can report to you that with a high degree of certainty we have sufficient resources to complete the fiscal year and accomplish what we need to do month by month institutionally. And also I think it's important for the board to know that we've identified sufficient liquid resources that we can respond appropriately to various contingencies that the institution is dealing with this semester. And also, at this point, I believe that the auxiliary and public service projections that I've spoken with the board about over the last few months are going to hold through the end of the year. So I'm really watching Kids Campus carefully because I promised Member Siegel she could nail me down on that number. So I believe it's going to stick, plus or minus a few $1,000s. So this is all a very, very good thing. On pages F8 and F9 of the report, you'll notice there is a divergence between the blue and the red lines there. And what that is representing, as we've talked about over the last few months, is that in the fall, we committed significant resources to salary on Exhibit 10 of our budget for full-time faculty and also in Exhibit 18 in regard to the expansion of OIT for technology reasons. So as we talked about throughout the fall and at the beginning of the year and in December when the board approved our mid-year budget adjustment request, the effect of that is that we saw a bubble of expenses being higher than it was in the previous year, and now having put the bar in place based on projected trends of local appropriations, we're seeing revenues run somewhat below what we would have normally expected, and that's consistent with what I had advised the board over the last few months to expect, that we'll see some fluctuation. I believe President Grissom and I have looked extensively. We're watching week by week, literally, how the rest of the year develops. I believe that we'll come down to an expected ending of the year. I don't think there will be anything dramatic that the board would not have expected. And that also, although we're not quite talking about the budget yet, those events of last fall are also providing a cautionary note to be conservative as we move forward with budget issues, because this is not something we want to repeat on an annual basis. So all of this is to say we have sufficient cash on hand. We are, I believe, where I have told the board in the last few months I expect us to be. I'm confident at this point that we'll be fine getting through the rest of the school year as far as our normal operations, and again we can deal with the issues that are before us effectively. So on the whole, I think that's a good place for us to be at this point in the year. And with that, I'll open the floor for you.
So I'm looking at F7 and the cash balances by month in comparison, obviously, to last year. And
yes.
I'm thinking that last year's high had to do more with.
Yes, that's right. And you may recall we made a modeling decision back in the fall, and strictly a judgment call that changes the way this graph works. You might notice in the gray striped lines that there's a significant fluctuation in the curve across the top of those lines. And I made a decision and consulted with because at the time, President Grissom was a part of the Budget Committee, and because of his prior background, we talked with this and with members of the Finance and Accounting team and just decided that it made more sense to report cash on this graph in a way that the board could see exactly where we were rather than a model that was kind of pro forma. So you're right, it is a different number. Now going forward next year, what I'm expecting is you'll see the gray and the stripe bar should, in next year, they should be more closer to the same. So it's strictly a judgment call of do you report a model or do you report numbers that are more reflective of actual cash. And for just from my experience, I'd rather see the actual numbers. Strictly a position to take.
Can I add a comment to that? Obviously, last year we were much more liquid because we've been selling bonds and we had cash
Right.
in hand. And as we spend those down, we're not going to have that cushion of liquidity from those bonds. Once we finish all these construction projects with the higher education center, we're going to use up all the bond funds, and we're going to be back to seeing really just operational liquidity and so forth. So
Yeah, so I concur with the point, and this is also one of the reasons why I had reported the board in October and November that we were putting banking under our New Mexico state contract and providing the facility to move funds over to earn basis points on our bond funds. And we were actually prepared to move forward with that in November and December, but because of events that certainly the board is well aware of, we just decided that we needed to slow that process and make sure that the institution was highly stable. So it's a very good point, and one of the key issues of the budget process is to look ahead over the next 15 months or so, and I'm committed just to making sure that we're conservative enough. I strongly agree with this particular aspect of Mary D's management over the last 4 or 5 years is to be conservative and look as far ahead as possible. So we'll just move slowly on these things. I think we'll be fine. Again, I know we're not talking about budget quite yet, but we have a good idea now of what our funding looks like for next year, and I think going forward, I think we'll be fine. But we've had good reason for the last few months to make moves slowly rather than rapidly. Even if they seem attractive, better to move methodically.
On F8, where the ING revenues are down, about 5% from prior year?
What it reflects is that in December, we to balance the budget, we made an estimate of increased mill levy allocations based on correspondence. You may remember this discussion from the December work session. And so the result of that is we changed the budget number going forward through the bar. We won't actually realize those receipts, those revenues, until the end of the year. So what I expect is
the fiscal year?
This is the fiscal year. Yes, I apologize, not the calendar year, but so May, June, and normally we receive those receipts over the last the better part of the last 10 years. Generally, we receive those before the end of the fiscal year. A few times we have to record an entry because we don't receive them until early July. And so what I expect to happen here is by the end of the fiscal year, by the time we're in July, what we'll see again is just as you saw the blue and red lines reconverge on the expense side, we expect to see those lines reconverge toward the end of the year on the revenue side. But it'll take us a few months to get there. And again, the reason for this is that there were changes in what we committed to financially between the time the budget was submitted to HED in May of last year and the time we began the school year. And the reason for that, again, we've discussed this before, but just to remind the board, the issue is that we committed resources based on some anticipated savings we won't see for a while. And so from a cash standpoint, those payroll issues are flowing through the system. Our savings are out there to be enjoyed in the future, and we should see benefit from that going forward. But this year, you see that little bit of a roller coaster in those red and blue lines.
Okay. I expect it on the expense side, but I don't expect it on the revenue side.
Mr. Chair and Member Single, let me make a comment. Remember, this is based upon percentages, and because we upped the percentages of revenue, the dollar amount of revenue, if you follow further behind, your percentage gets lower.
Drops.
So it's partially the fact that we increased revenues more, so our percentage difference is different.
That's right.
Because it's a percentage, it's not actual dollars so much as.
Right, and not reflective so much of actual revenue, but a change in the budget line item. In other words, it's an artificial effect. We anticipated it, and it was unavoidable to balance that mid-year bar.
Let me also add that as Brian mentioned, we are keeping a weekly eye on this, and we do have expenses that we can adjust. We have expense savings that are going to occur this year. So even if something did happen, we're going to still end up at the right place.
Right. That's right. And the other thing we're looking at, even in terms of this report that the board sees, the president and I have been looking with Nancy Grabowski, with our budget director, about what this report is actually saying to the board. And so one of the things about this report, because it's highly summarized, is that it strongly reflects budget models. And we basically have had the same one for about the last 5 fiscal years. So one of the things we're looking at is that we're really past. I've spent a great deal of time recently studying 2009 assumptions and criteria that the board approved a number of years ago. But we're coming into fiscal year 15. And so it may be possible for this report, with the board's approval over the summer as we go forward, to modify this report a little bit so that it's not quite so conservative. Were it less conservative, my point, Ms. Siegel, is that were we using a somewhat less conservative set of assumptions, you wouldn't actually see quite such a variance there. But it is, I agree with the President's comment, it is budgetary rather than actual revenue. So we should see that gap close over the next few months. Actual revenue.
Any other questions? Oh, I'm sorry, Kathy?
So Brian, F10, looking at our revenues, the other sources looks like we're kind of off target there, that we're behind.
Those are accumulating month by month.
They're inconsistent.
That's right. That's right, and that's right. And even looking ahead to next year's budget, if you look at a series, just yesterday I was looking, for instance, at the February report the board saw over like the last 5 years, and you see some of these phenomena are typical of mid-year. So,
the chair.
Senor Cedillo?
Brian, are grants included in this? In our operation budget?
No, Member Cedillo. We were just talking about that as well yesterday on this report. These are our 11,000 series funds, so these are operational funds only. So to see grants on a monthly basis, and we do include those in quarterly financials, for instance. But this format is different than the audited financials, where of course you would see all of our revenue pieces and all of our expense pieces. Substantially larger flows when you include all of those. So I think the intent of this has been for the board, and again, this is something I'll hope to discuss with the board in coming months, is whether the intent of the report still does what the board needs it to do. The intent of this is to give the board a snapshot of actual operational funding month by month, which I'm certainly open to the board suggesting we'd like to see it a different way. I have a few ideas. The President has a few.
Mr. Chair, and just the members of the board, Brian and I have been talking, and we're going to come up with some mock-ups of a different report that will show you more in a little more detail, because you're only seeing a chunk. This is the biggest chunk, but we would like to be able to show everything, and we're hoping actually through our Cognos program to be able to have a dashboard where you could see things, and then you could drill down into the various exhibits. And to me, that's the way I want to be able to manage. And
So
we're going to get there.
Agreed.
Expenses attached to the grants would appear in the overall
Yes.
as well as the income.
What we'd like to show you is a true picture of all revenues and all expenses,
Right.
and break it down by the different types.
Right. All flows.
And actually, F14, 15, and 16 do give us some summaries of grant expenses.
Yes.
That
Yeah, they do.
is a similar process.
Right. My, I hesitate to use the word concern. It's not really a concern, just an observation, is that from the standpoint of giving the board a very quick snapshot, this is a well-designed report. From the standpoint of understanding the question that Member Cedillo is raising, what are the actual flows, we don't get there with this report. So we'll work with it. That, I think, is a collaborative effort of the board expressing this is what we'd like to see. And then, as the president says, we'll come up with a few ideas, and it'll take us a few months, but we can sort that out whenever we're ready to move forward with that.
Mr. Chair, I would encourage you to continue this weekly monitoring to ensure that we're on target and we're not going to get ourselves in a surprise later on.
Absolutely agreed, and I accept that wisdom, Member Cedillo. This time of year, as the board knows, going through the legislative process, we hear pronouncements from our various appropriating bodies, but those are modified almost on a daily basis, as the board is aware. So this is one of the things we're watching really carefully. The president the consistent question he's asking is, what is the actual number? And that's a collaborative effort. That takes a variety of technical people to be looking at, make sure we're interpreting it correctly. But I absolutely agree. One area that the president and I strongly concur in is that I really am uncomfortable not knowing exactly where we are on a daily basis. With an institution of this complexity, that alone is a challenge, and so we're working as a team in finance to develop the tools we need to make sure we can see it. But I absolutely agree. Absolutely agree.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair, I move approval of the financial report for February 2014.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion, or all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Motion passes. Thank you, Brian.
My pleasure.
Now we have, on tab G, we have written reports.
I thought we were going to discuss the budget process update.
Yeah,
That's next.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Was
No,
that,
it says written.
Right, and we have the other updates we'd like to share with you too.
Oh, okay.
so what's,
So can we do a budget update?
sure.
Let me give a very, very brief summary of where we are, and I welcome comments from the president, because we have literally been working together on this since about the middle of August. We embarked on a very ambitious project in December, as the board knows, which was to operationalize an inclusive budget process. I realize this is not a financial comment, but I would like to add to the president's commendation of Susan Lemke. We had a very technical team of about 10 or 12 people who in December came up with a great concept, and we needed some a professional who understood how to operationalize it. It's a very special set of talents. The result of Susan's work is that as of the week before spring break, we were able to meet in this room with the executive team and the budget committee with 71 requests that represented every possible constituency of the community, which is an extremely exciting thing. For this year, whether we accomplish all those 71 things is not as exciting as the fact that we received 71 of those, and those have been parsed through a vetting committee. It has now progressed to the point that they are on the president's desk, where he is doing executive review of the priorities. Strategic alignment is looking at those to make sure that they're strategically aligned. This is one of the key reasons, Member Cedillo, while we're really trying to sort out what we have from an appropriation standpoint, because these are some of these requests are requests that really are we need to address. We have a good idea of what we are looking at next year in terms of revenue. We are about, I would estimate, 6 weeks behind where we would normally be with looking at expenses, simply because of where we started in the year with the entire process. So at this point, from a revenue standpoint, we're looking at an approximately $35 million revenue year. We are... That would be with the operational pieces. Operational, right? About a 35. I should say operational budget. I'm very, very specific. And we're in process of working through the current year expenses. We have a number of areas, as the president mentioned, that we can reduce expenses, and our objective is to net the budget down to where the president can come to the board with a clear recommendation about what we are able to do in terms of requests that came out of our collaborative budget process. One thing we did that I think as a board and finance and executive team, I think that was very wise, is that, as I mentioned to the board in December, when we submitted our mid-year budget adjustment request, we intentionally left our expenditure areas grossed up. We had looked at those, the president and I had looked at those with Nancy Grabowski in December. We contemplated maybe we should cut these areas, which is somewhere between $600,000 and $1 million worth of cuts we could have made. And we decided, no, let's leave them where they are, because that'll give us room to work. And that is proving to be a very good thing as we move forward with the budget, because we have working material to start with. So we're not quite far enough along at this point to present a detailed draft to the board. I think we will be there within a few weeks, and certainly by the April board meeting. But I concur with the president's comment earlier. I believe the process we created this year will serve the institution for a long time. We'll debrief it over the summer, and once the board has an opportunity to see the result of it, we'll, as a collective, we'll debrief. But that's where we are. I think we're within probably 2 weeks of having the numbers nailed down to the point that discussion can begin. And then, of course, next month we'll need to move toward approval.
Mr. Chair, we hope to set a board work session for some time between now and the April board meeting, so we can spend some detailed hours going through that. And I know we may not be able to get everybody there, but we hope to try to get that set sometime between 2 weeks from now and the next board meeting.
Martha?
I would like to request that the budget materials be sent to us before the work session.
Absolutely.
I think one of the things that's a deficit for us is that when we only see the budget numbers at a work session and right before the board meeting, we don't have much time to study it. We don't have time to make comparisons. We don't have time to think about what the intelligent questions are for the budget, or what we need to know in order to understand it better. So even if it's not a complete, final document, for us to have a draft of those documents would be really useful, at least with a weekend intervening.
I concur, Dr. Romero, and strongly support that. In fact, we were just talking about that issue yesterday. We will make sure that that happens. The good aspect of our process that we went through is that we really achieved a remarkable, complex process with a lot of good results and a lot of good data. And we've had a lot of discussion about your comment at the work session, either 1 or 2 work sessions ago, that we need to be data-driven. The downside of the process we created is that our schedule was ambitious, and so I had really hoped that today that we would be coming to the board with a draft, and that's what we hoped in December and January. We're not quite there, but I absolutely support your request, and we'll make sure that happens. You'll see it before we're meeting to decide on it for sure.
And Mr. Chair, members of the board, just to point out on the update on the strategic plan section at the end is all of the requests that came in. There is the spreadsheet that has all the requests. It doesn't have all the ratings on it. We are going to be posting that. We haven't posted that yet, have we, on Jack? Okay. But we are going to post the ratings, the interview committee, the review committee. We had a very complicated rubric, maybe a little more complicated than it needed to be, but it was all tied to the strategic plan and what we're doing. And so the 5 members rated every project, and we have a spreadsheet that shows from top to bottom what are the top priorities. I'm working with that list and coming up with some estimates, a few changes to my recommendations, but it's pretty close to what they ranked.
Mr. Chair, President Grisham, I think it's important that we get the strategic plan as well. For that work session, so that we can tie that into the budget. As a new member, maybe I'm asking some questions that are naive, or maybe you've discussed them, but I think that is important to have the strategic plan tied in with the budget, make sure that we're aligned, make sure that we have the proper information so that we can say, as Member Romero indicated, we need to make some informed decisions. We have a great responsibility to this college, a fiduciary responsibility to ensure that whatever decisions we make are going to be based on good information.
Agreed, Member Cedillo. If I might respond to that, the really major achievement of the process this year is that we agreed we formed a budget committee in the fall that represented senior administrators from every area of the campus. My experience as a financial manager over the years has been that if a budget is prepared strictly from a financial perspective, it's going to be largely limited. It's rarely representative of the community, and a few times over the years has simply missed the mark, and it did not speak for the community. So the really significant achievement is that by having Yash Morimoto and Susan Lemke and their team prepare the budget request process from the perspective of institutional effectiveness and strategic alignment, it puts finance in the position where what we're evaluating is what the community said and not we told them we think should happen. And that balance puts the president in the executive position of being of knowing that the data that was received is representative of the community, and it becomes a question of can we financially achieve it. And so I think the one good thing is, as President Grissom mentioned, the rubric was a little bit complicated. We set the bar high enough that we knew that our community members probably wouldn't do it if they really didn't care about their budget request. But at this point, I think it's reasonable to say you can't actually separate the budget material that the board sees from strategic alignment or from the rubric because the way it was designed, the way Susan conceived of it, I know, Susan, I'm speaking for you back there, but the way it was conceived of and the way it played out, those things were completely integrated. So if you don't have the strategic alignment materials, the budget doesn't make any sense. If you just look at the finances, and if you just look at the strategic alignment, then the finances don't speak either. It's integrated, which I think is marvelous.
Members of the board, we'll get copies of the complete rubric as well as the spreadsheet, and we do have some. We're going to go through some of it tonight, but we'll make sure. I don't know if all the board members have it. You probably don't yet, but we'll get you the more details of the strategic plan so that we make sure we have everything. Great.
Kathy?
A quick question just as a wrap-up. Will you remind us what the schedule is? In the next 2 weeks, we get the draft copy of the budget to study, and then we approve it at the April meeting?
Right. We will work as rapidly as possible, and necessarily, as Dr. Romero said, the board will need to be involved in the process over coming weeks. Our actual statutory deadline is that we must submit to HED by May 1st, which means that the board has to be able to make a decision in open meeting before we submit that. So our timing for the month of April is, we were actually discussing yesterday the timing of that session for the board. We need enough time, at least a few days between the board's formal addressing of the budget and submission, that in the event that the board says we want this modified, we have to have time to do that. And it's a fairly complex submission. So ideally, the objective would be to have material, at least in a form the board can consider by mid-April, and then we would want to try by probably 2 or 3 days before the deadline to have the opportunity for formal approval. Is that adequately stated?
Right now,
Mr.
we
President?
plan to have the April board meeting on the 22nd.
Correct.
That's what's on the schedule. In theory, in many years in the past, it has been as late as April 28th or 29th because it took us a while to get together. We're trying our best. I think we can meet that April 22nd deadline. What you're going to get on the draft budget is going to be a rough draft budget. It's going to probably include my recommendations for some areas, and then we're going to have some discussions on salary increases. You'll get various options to look at for that, as well as a discussion on tuition, whether we want to leave tuition alone or do we want to do anything with tuition increases. And so that'll be some of the discussion items we'll want to have at the work session, and then based upon the feedback in the work session, we'll present a final budget to you on April 22nd.
Randy?
Thank you.
Would you do me a favor and let Donna know when you get it ready when you're gonna email it out, because, sorry, I don't live on my email. You know,
We'll call
I
you.
don't sleep with it, you know, so, and so if you would, let her know, and then you can tell me, and I'll do the appropriate thing that I need to do. Okay? Cool, thank you. And special meeting, are we still looking at, because we're gonna get something, or are we not looking at a special work session in 2 weeks?
Would like to talk tonight about putting together a work session sometime 2 weeks from now, thereabouts, so that we have some time to sit and have some of those discussions on some of those options in the budget. And so that was what we were going to talk about towards the end when we look at the next meeting dates.
And so that will be after we receive something?
Yes,
through the email?
we will get you something that you can look at, but then we want to sit down at a meeting and in a work session, kind of go through the various options.
Cool. And so that'll be, Donna, the week before the 22nd, those 5 days or whatever that I'm assuming. And so then, you know, I guess that'll be the thing of trying to coordinate schedules to see who can make it, or, you know, who can do it. Cool. That'll be good. Thank you. Is that it? Any other questions? All right. So I guess we will be expecting as a board to do a work session in a couple of weeks, and receiving some information through email, and Donna will be calling, you know, the five of us to set up a schedule if it's possible to do it. Okay? Good. Thank you. Assessment program and accreditation update, Ms. Carlson. Sorry, Josh, your name wasn't on here, so I didn't, you know, don't get hurt, okay?
We all know Yash.
Yeah.
Chair Abeda, Mr. President, and members of the board, I don't think I've met you. I'm Jill Carlson, the new Director for Assessment and Accreditation. If we can switch to the first slide. We just kind of want to give you a bird's eye view tonight of the work that our groups have done. One more. Oh, you got it. Good. Okay. Whoops. Okay, so the assessment committee has created this 9-step process for the institution to follow for program level assessment, and the Common Student Learning Outcomes Action Project group will also be using this model to assess their CSLOs starting in selected general education classes in the fall. And so we've designed a 2-year cycle. We anticipate that every program will complete all of their program assessments and be able to report on them regularly within 2 years. That gives them 8 semesters plus the summer for however many outcomes. We've recommended 4 to 8 outcomes on a program level basis. And then the committee will review it and make recommendations. On program review, we have moved to a 4-year cycle to align that with the AQUIP systems portfolio, and identified who is where in the cycle. That's a little bit in flux because it's very hard to define a program. Apparently all colleges share that, but we're working on that. And then the new program review template will be based largely on the AQUIP system portfolio questions, so we can make our work smarter, not harder, and gather information for both.
Jill, for the sake of new members, Cedillo, tell me what AQUIP is.
Okay. AQUIP is the Academic Quality Improvement Program. That is the type of accreditation that we participate in through the Higher Learning Commission, and it's a continuous quality improvement model. I'd be happy to send you all slides. We've created sort of an AQUIP 101 for a number of the executive team that I'm doing next week, and I'd be happy to share those with you.
Thank you.
Sure. So the program review cycle then will be 4 years, and as you can see from this chart, every 2 years we'll have the assessment review. During that 4th year, it'll be actually embedded in the program review process, but we didn't want to wait 4 years to look at assessment every time. That's just too long. It's too critical to our accreditation. And this is a graphic of the key AQUIP processes and how we fit into them, basically to highlight during the next year or so, we will be doing the major self-study document called the Systems Portfolio. That's written around 9 categories identified by AQUIP. We've formed the teams. We're doing a major training on the 2nd of May, and we'll be proceeding with writing that self-study. And I'm sure we'll be presenting parts of that to you at various times during the next year. And so then if you take it all together, you can see that what we've done is aligned all of these cycles so that we can better use the information and not work duplicating our efforts. Okay, so we have action projects going right now. Those are specific 1 to 3 year projects that are chartered specifically with executive team approval, and then an action project group works on them. We have a group right now working on the common student learning outcomes. The college has identified 3. The statements in the catalog are more thematic than measurable. So the committee has identified for 2 of those 8 actually measurable outcomes. We're identifying right now currently gen ed classes that had a lot of students to pilot that in, and we will be proceeding with assessment for that during the fall. We have an action project going on the top of my head here. Complaints. On complaints. That's been going for a while. They're working with OIT to use some software that we already have in-house and modify it so that students and other members of the community have an electronic way to offer complaints, and then we have a way to run trend analysis on them and solve larger problems than just, the bathroom doesn't have any toilet paper kind of complaints. We have a third one going, which basically got us the IDEA software, which is a student evaluation of faculty software. We're still working some of the bugs on that. I would anticipate we close that fairly shortly. As you heard earlier, there's a possibility that we'll charter an action project around adjunct issues, and Mr. Morimoto will be offering you some more information. I participate in that committee as well, based on the survey. We've done a lot of things from that survey that don't require an action project, and so that's kind of moving forward. And then we're considering a couple of others, but they're not to the charter stage. The accreditors require that we have 3 going at all times. We can have as many as 4. So that's where we're at on that.
Great.
Okay.
Cool. Oh, Martha, you had a question?
So, I may not have heard you correctly, but I think you're talking about program outcomes versus student learning outcomes.
Student learning outcomes for students who are going through the whole program. The move in higher ed, as we all know, is for greater accountability. And so by assessing outcomes in various spots over a series of courses, we are trying to prove that our students have learned what we say they've learned in a way with establishing these outcomes. So it might be something like, I can't remember one off the top of my head, I'm sorry. Students will be able to write and express themselves well within the context of a discipline, and then we look and measure those at various points.
But you don't have student learning outcomes at the program level, at the classroom level.
Faculty set those. The assessment committee can offer guidance, but we don't really mess with classroom assessment.
Do you collect data on that?
I don't know if departments are doing that right now. I think that's something we could do.
Right now, though, what we are doing is program level assessment and then common student learning outcomes assessment.
Okay. Because what I've learned over time is that where institutions identify achievement gaps is usually at the classroom program level rather than at the more global levels. And it's very hard to identify where the achievement gaps exist and where students drop out and where retention doesn't happen if you don't drill down to that level of data.
One of the things, I wish we had one of the charts in here, but what we've done is we've looked at like all the courses in a program and we match where all the outcomes introduced, reinforced, and measured. So we're looking, and then as part of that process, we do identify some of the gaps. And Margaret may be able to say something on this one too. Come on, get up here. You're bouncing, waiting to say something.
Because the assessment committee works closely with curriculum committee.
Right.
Every course has a set of outcomes. It's just not renewed at the assessment committee level. We look at the program and the more global ones.
I was simply going to say that course level assessment happens generally at the department level. rather than, and so program level and then common student learning outcomes is, we're connected to our assessment committee. And
Do you look at that data
we,
at the course level?
yes, and I would need to get, to connect the departments to get you that information specifically, but yes.
Some departments do better than others.
Yes, that's absolutely true.
And one of the things we're trying to do is make it systematic, so it's consistent across campus.
I'd be happy to come back sometime when we have a little more time and do some detail.
Good. So, Josh, will you do survey results then? Is that what we're going to get into, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Susan?
You're up.
So first of all, I'd like to just thank President Grissom's support for doing this survey. Without his support and leadership, this wouldn't have happened. So, a lot of people were talking about my name, then Susan's name earlier, but it really, the credit goes to the president. So we have conducted this survey of adjunct faculty results, and I know our time is limited, so we'll try to go as fast as possible. And Susan, would you like to take on from here?
Can I do that?
Yes.
Great. Okay. So, oops. Okay, so you this slide presentation is in your packet, so if you may have had a chance to look at it, and again, as Yash said, I'll hit some of the highlights, and then of course we'll take any questions that you have. We used a really sort of rigorous method to make sure that the survey got out to as many adjunct faculty as possible, and we had really an excellent response rate. 104 responses, 23% is really a really high response rate for a survey of this type.
I have a comment on that. It doesn't seem like it is.
Oh, it's very, for a survey, it's
that
very
a normal
high.
thing for surveys?
Yeah, it is.
So it just, if somebody's working here and somebody's, if they're employees of an organization, why does it have to seem like it's pulling teeth, 23%? Why can't it be something that can be, required and say, hey, we need to get this done and get 90% or something? Is that such a ridiculous thing? Or, Yash, you can be honest with me. Is it?
It would make my dream come true if everybody would have a required to take the survey. However, 23% is actually an excellent response rate considering the number of people we're serving. And we didn't even take a sample. We did the entire large universe of people.
And that gives us a good picture of what's going on.
Excellent picture.
Okay, no sweat then. Go ahead.
So I've skipped ahead a little bit. One of the things that Nancy Uvalle, Nancy, you're still here? Yeah, one of the things that Nancy Uvalle mentioned when she was speaking with the Faculty Senate officers was that we have adjuncts with a considerable amount of experience. We have, more than a quarter have been teaching at the college for 5 to 7 years, and then another third on top of that have been teaching here for 8 or more. So we have some really experienced instructors. And then as you can see on the far right, we have people who know their stuff, really teaching our courses. So we're very fortunate, and we have a really solid, really high quality faculty. And again, education-wise as well, we have really a very solid group. You can see that in general, this is the number of credit hours taught during the fall semester, and in general, if you look on the set of numbers on the left, we've got basically the 32% and the 29% means that we've got a little over 60% are teaching between 3 and 8 credit hours. So, sort of right in the middle of 1 or 2 classes. Go back. All right. I'm going to go back to that. Okay. So did you want to say something in particular? Okay, so one of the things that we did ask was about what folks do in terms of work outside. And this was fascinating. I mean, it was almost, we went back to look at the numbers because it came out so sort of perfectly even. But you can see that our adjuncts are really diverse in terms of the other responsibilities they have, professional responsibilities they have outside of the college.
And what I'd like to point out is that, many people say adjunct faculty wants this, or adjunct faculty wants that. And it's really dangerous to classify one thing or another, which is what this really shows. And is that there's a wide range of people with different kinds of background coming here and teaching on campus. So this was sort of showing the importance of the diversity actually on campus. So thank you.
One of the questions that was asked that we wanted to get information about was whether adjuncts are getting hired for their classes with sufficient time, and it's clear that that is happening, that we have nearly 80% of the faculty are being hired for the classes more than a month ahead of time. And so, that's very good news. Administratively, the chairs are really on top of getting those faculty scheduled. We asked folks to express whether they strongly agree, somewhat agree, strongly disagree, or somewhat disagree with a variety of statements. And not surprisingly, autonomy in teaching is important to instructors, and that seems to be the nature of teaching. And good news, most people are doing it because they actually enjoy doing it. We'll look into some other areas, but number 4 is the more sort of structural logistic issue, right? And that the resources, and particularly technology resources, are important to folks. As far as disagreement, you have nearly 3/4 saying that they're not feeling fully fairly paid. It is not a retirement job for most people, nor is it the primary source of income for most of our adjuncts. But interestingly, and nor is it because, it's about teaching part-time. And unfortunately, not that many of them would like to attend graduation. We'll touch on some things here that have been touched on already. And as Jill noted, and as other folks have noted, a number of the questions of interest that you'll see here have already been addressed sort of immediately as soon as these survey results came out. Vice President of Academic Affairs Margaret Peters and President Grissom have been very attentive to these things, and to the extent, as Jill mentioned, not everything requires a project. And so some of these things that can be handled with quicker attention have already been addressed, and I'll try to refer to some of those things. The first on the left, though, I do want to mention, because this is something that Clark referred to in his comments. We have 1/3 of the respondents to the survey indicated that they are looking at adjunct teaching as a path towards full-time faculty teaching, and that is not an insignificant number. And then you have another 28% who somewhat agree with that, and we need to be a little cautious about that group, because somewhat agree might include the people who said, yeah, sure, I'd love to, kind of thing. But nonetheless, you can't discount that really that 1/3 are genuinely interested and is in a path towards more structured employment. On the far right, an adjunct faculty handbook is important to me. You've got about 72% either agreed, somewhat or strongly agreed with that. And one of the things that we talked about today, and Jill mentioned in the AQIP, this survey actually came out of efforts to explore an AQIP action project. And in our meeting this afternoon, actually, on AQIP, we had a very specific discussion about this. And one way or another, this is something that is going to get some focus. It's something that we can attend to very readily, and that would make it, Member Cedillo, you were speaking about communications, and something like this is just a very foundational kind of thing that we can make sure that all adjuncts are getting this information. So that's something that'll be attended to one way or another, whether it's through an action project or a task force. Tech support, it's very interesting that sort of tech support for evening and weekend, and this was for on-ground and online courses, was really an important thing. So already, Chris De La Rosa, our Chief Information Officer, has increased the help desk hours from the technology department. So they're open till 7 o'clock in the evening now. So that resource, is that right?
Yeah, additional computers.
Yes. Yes, that's tech support. I haven't gotten to that yet. Okay, so we have, yes, we've already implemented some additional tech support, and I think they'll monitor that to see usage, and also we'll work to make sure that people are aware that tech support has been extended. As far as the next sort of 4 comments, the space issues, in terms of having access to space, having a private area, and then having access to computers and to secure storage space. A couple of things have happened there. OIT, again, Chris has been very responsive and has added additional computers already into the adjunct faculty area so that they have more resources available to them. And then the Henry and his folks in plant are looking at possible ways to address the space issues, both in terms of finding more space for adjunct faculty to work, and also that storage issue, which is obviously not something we were thinking about, but is obviously a major consideration. The sort of most noteworthy here is, we do have over half of folks who find incentive in being able to use the facilities here as part of the value of being an adjunct here. I think the fourth statement over is the most notable, where you have 83% have indicated that they really would like to attend professional development through SFCC. Nancy again talked about sort of the opportunities that are currently available, but that's something that they would certainly appreciate. Similarly, while autonomy is incredibly important to them, you have 65% saying that assistance in planning their courses is important to them, and another 62% saying that help figuring out pedagogy is also important to them. So while they want autonomy, they're actually extremely open to getting input on improving their teaching and presenting their curriculum. The good news is they do feel very appreciated, just in general by their supervisor, and they, and those two, the second and third statements there are really good news. It seems that the chairs have done a really good job of creating solid relationships with their adjuncts. And then finally, we asked them to sort of rank these 6 statements in order of importance to them, trying to figure out really what are their key priorities of things they don't have that they could get. You can see that the number 1 priority overall was that full year teaching contracts, which was something that Nancy mentioned earlier as well. That ended up being ranked number 1 most often. And then number 2 most often was, number 1, the second most often, was compensation for years of service outside of teaching outside of SFCC. Because we do have people who teach, have taught quite a bit, not just here, but at other institutions as well. And then this is another way to look at that same data. Again, full year teaching contracts. And payment for initial course creation. We do have, in some courses the adjuncts come in and they're presented with a very comprehensive set of materials, a comprehensive course outline and such. In other cases, they really are developing the course, and so that was another consideration.
For this particular slide, lower is better. Just in case you're wondering. So the 2.9 is because we did average, so that's the lowest. So that means it's higher. 1 is best. So thank you.
Thank you. And that's it. So, Yash will talk about, on the survey there was an opportunity for folks to provide specific comments, and so Yash will give you a little summary of those.
Well, actually, it's actually pretty reflective of what the presentation says. But what we have done is reducted some of these comments so that the anonymity of the respondents is protected, but we want to still share with the rest of the campus about what people are saying. So one of our plans that we have is that we're going to be going to the Faculty Senate this Friday to do the presentation. We're hoping to do the presentation right before spring break, but it was canceled, so we're moved back to this date. The results of the survey is also published on JAC, so anybody who's interested could take a look at it and read it, and anybody who has questions is coming to our office and we've talked to them about those things. So we stand for question.
Sure. Mr. Cedillo?
As I indicated earlier, I really value the adjunct faculty. I think they're important to the quality of education that Santa Fe Community College is providing. So, so I guess what I'm looking for is that integration between adjunct and the faculty. And it's about communication. I understand the role of each our teaching professions, and I think the diversity and experience that adjunct bring to the college is experience, and I think not only experience in their field, but cultural experiences as well. I think that's the strength of this college. So that's a comment, and a question: how many hours are they allowed to? Are the adjunct faculty allowed to teach per semester?
Members of the board, I defer to President Grissom.
Mr. Chair, members of the DO, that's been a moving target. We're now going to follow the recent IRS guidelines, which would allow an adjunct to teach up to 12 credit hours. We're still trying to look at, because we pay for classes by pay hour instead of credit hour, as to whether we're going to do 12 credit hours or 12 pay hours. If they go above that, then they're eligible for the health care benefits, and that has huge budget implications. So right now our plan is that we're going to say 12. We're still looking at, is it 12 credit hours or 12 pay hours? The IRS statement that came out recently says credit hours, but because we do pay hours, we're trying to figure out which we're going to do there.
Martha?
I just want to thank the college. I want to thank you, and I want to thank the researchers for doing this. I can't tell you the number of community colleges that have not paid attention to this, and it's a hugely important issue because of the number of our students who are taught by adjuncts. So I just want to commend all of you for doing this work.
Members of the board, Mr. Chair, board member Cedillo, I just want to point out that one of the strategic plan's long-term goals do address the diversity, increasing diversity on campus is one of the issues. So that is another thing we are looking at as an institution. So thank you.
I just have a question about some of these comments. Are we taking some of them seriously?
Of course.
Yes.
Okay.
The non-redacted version was sent to the president and Vice President Peters for review.
Kathy?
Can I add, before we move on, let me add something. I mean, when people make comments, you take them seriously, but you also have to take some of them with a grain of salt.
Yeah, right, I agree.
Because usually what you hear mostly are really negative complaints that somebody has, and it's often very personal. We take that seriously, but we also have to take it with a grain of salt. So
I just see some process.
yes, there are some, yes.
There
Yes.
which deserve a review, I would think.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, everything should. Kathy?
A quick question. I know I always ask more questions. So you go to so much work to put this together, right? And then somebody says, did you ask this? So I'm really interested in kind of the slides at the beginning talking about the experience of our adjuncts and impressed by the experience and educational credentials of our adjuncts. Do we have any way of knowing a comparison between that and adjuncts at other institutions, other community colleges?
It would really depend on whether or not they've done a survey like this.
Okay.
So unfortunately, that data is limited.
Yeah.
We have done a review of other adjunct salary ranges, but most institutions does not have goes anything beyond here. And if this is successful, this is something that we could share with other researchers to see if they're willing to administer it on their campus. And if we're ever successful in that endeavor, then at that point we'll have some sort of baseline to compare.
Okay, thank you.
I would say that there are some that in the Achieving the Dream initiatives, the colleges that are conducting this kind of research, this is very typical. And some of what it depends on is whether there are a great number of retired people who come back and teach, who come with very high credentials and maybe have taught for a long period of time in universities. Also, the ones that have the greatest amount of trouble are the rural areas where there are very few folks who there. But this is pretty typical. Community colleges have incredible faculty members from that standpoint. But I agree with you that there's not enough research to really, generalize about that.
I'd like to respond to Member Romero's comment. We are rejoining Achieving the Dream, so we are going to have the ability to now actively share our data and see what other institutions are doing. And we are going to be, a team will be going to the Achieving the Dream meeting in June. So that's going to be our initial kickoff of getting back in the Achieving the Dream.
When did we
program.
leave Achieving the Dream?
When our 5 years ran out in 2009, I believe.
May I make one last comment? One of the things I was really impressed with my colleagues and the president was that many times people take this kind of information and they say, oh, that's nice. But instead, what I saw was everybody taking it seriously, and then it came up with an action step to actually try to address. What can we do to actually address these concerns? So it's been a very heartwarming thing to see, using data to improve institutional practice on this campus. So thank you.
And let me add one more thing. I have a floor plan layout to show you for expanding the adjunct faculty office, which means you giving up part of your board breakout room, but we have a solution for that too.
That's okay.
Okay, any other questions? All right, so you guys will also be doing the strategic planning updates, correct? All right.
So again, you have the written update, and Dr. Ziemer has discussed a fair bit about the process. Again, the rating team went through it ended up being 73 budget requests, and going through and using, I don't think it was necessarily overcomplicated, let's call it comprehensive, and also approved by the president of the college, the rubric that was prepared. And the rubric was in your January packet, and we'll make sure, again, we'll put together a whole packet of materials of this for you, and for Member Cedillo who didn't receive the January packet. But the rubric is tied very, very closely to the strategic plan, and it's tied very, very closely to kind of a cost benefit. So what's the relative benefits to the college of making these investments? And I think you'll see that it really does forward particularly the strategic initiatives of the institution, and it did require folks to put some thought into how what they were requesting makes a difference on a broader level. I'd like to acknowledge and recognize and thank the other 4 members of the request rating team, Dr. Gonzalez, Shuli Lambden, and Laura Rosenfeld from the faculty, and Noe Villarreal from our plant operations and maintenance area. Spent a lot of hours and really carefully reviewing these, and then we prepared, you have, as President Grissom mentioned, you have the list of requests that was submitted, the unrated list. We do have the list with what ended up being the scores from the rubric, and you'll be able to see that. And as was mentioned earlier, President Grissom is reviewing that now to sort of make sort of the final determination relative to those scores. We did have, as Dr. Ziemer mentioned, we had a fairly lengthy meeting with the executive team, the budget committee, and others to go through each of those requests, and it took us a good 3 hours to really get through everything, and folks were very patient and thoughtful. So this process has been really well considered, I think. The other thing I wanted to mention is that while Dr. Gonzalez was on the rating team, she has also volunteered to lead the process for evaluating the process, right? And as part of continuous improvement, you want to, when you implement a process, you want to make sure that you have a built-in piece where you go back and say, okay, so how well did this work as a process and in terms of outcomes, and what can we do to make it different? And I will acknowledge that there's lots of opportunities for continuous improvement here, but she very graciously agreed to lead that team as well. And Yash will be leading the team to evaluate actually the strategic planning process itself as well, that we went through in the spring. So where we are with strategic planning is largely moving forward with our strategic initiatives. And I don't know if that was in this packet. I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
We have different...
So what's in there is...
Sorry. In any case, moving forward with the action plan and the various initiatives that we're using to forward the goals and strategic objectives of the college. And then what we've been doing with the Institutional Planning Committee, which you know was is sort of instrumental in helping with the planning of the strategic planning development process. Now that we have a strategic plan, we're sort of rethinking the role of that planning committee and looking sort of at the bigger planning issues of the institution. You know, we have a 5-year strategic plan. How do you make that actionable, and how do you tie all the other planning and action that happens in the institution back to that strategic plan? So the I won't be, but Yash will be leading that group forward to think about sort of how it can most effectively work to help assist with this integration of the planning efforts of the institution, so that really everything, so that the strategic plan really does drive everything.
Nice job.
Okay.
Just one thing to point out, at the end of like G49 and past there, you see each of the long-term goals in the plan, you see the initiatives, you see the descriptions, and you see the initiative leader or leads. And so we're well underway to make sure we're doing things and we can measure it. I think that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You lost your chair.
Thank you. Well done.
We're done.
I think that's it. Isn't it? Oh, no, the enrollment update.
Yeah, you've got a written one in there.
Yeah, we do.
All right.
She's there for us.
Mr. Chair, Mr. President, members of the board, we have a very good enrollment update, and I believe that I have a different one than you all do, because I just got one today.
Got today's.
I don't know what, I didn't see the one that you have, so I'm not sure, but we have head count, a growth or change in our, from spring semester 2014 compared to spring semester 2013, a 1.37% increase.
There.
The FTE, 3.11% increase. Credit hours, 3.11%. Courses, 10.62. And when we compare spring semester 2014 to spring semester 2012, we've gained 3.73. Oh, you have it up there too, okay.
That's
the old one. Yes, we get it every Wednesday, so last Wednesday, that's from last Wednesday. So the FTE on this report is 3.67, credit hours is 3.67, and courses are 10.62. So we're doing well, I think, with our enrollment. And I know that there's a lot of other community colleges in the state that are not doing so well.
And universities, too.
Yes, universities too. My former university and all its branch campuses are way down.
Because you came here.
I guess.
Aren't you glad you came
All
here?
your fault. Thank you.
Well, I'm certainly happy to be back in Santa Fe, that's for sure.
That's good.
Dr. Gonzalez, let me ask you, why are we up in credit hours and down in courses? are students enrolling higher in,
No, we're up in both.
well, you're
Yeah.
up in both, but from 11%, which is on this sheet, to 10% on the other one, but you're up in the credit hours.
We're up
Or-
in
or
credit
maybe I
hours, but
misunderstood that.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand it.
Okay. The figures that we have are that there are courses are up by 11%.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about the courses being up by 10% in your chart.
Yeah, 10.62.
But the credit hours are the same or higher or lower?
Then prior years?
This one says 3.80.
Oh, it's lower. It's 3.67.
Okay, so
Mhm.
that's consistent. Thank you.
Uh-huh, okay.
You just remember, we have a lot of late starting classes, and so if they don't get enough students, we cancel them. So that number of courses can keep changing as well as the number of students can keep changing.
And the other thing that happens too is we get the dual credit students in a little bit later than the other ones, so it always adds students to us.
We have a lot of 8-week courses that started the week after spring break, so
Right.
that changes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Carmen. All right, doesn't look like we have any related to the policy. And are there any, there's no action reports or information to report on? Then our next board meeting will be April 22nd, but we are expecting to have a special work session within 2 weeks or more or less, something like that. Is that
So,
correct?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to find out from the board members, if it's possible, is there any time the week of April 15th that we could have a budget work session? The later in the week, probably the better. But just curious if there's dates or times that work for you.
The 18th is the only possibility for me.
The 18th? What about other board members? Could we do the afternoon?
When would that be, in the afternoon, you think, or?
I would prefer the afternoon, but it doesn't.
I would
I'm
prefer
open to
early
any-
afternoon.
I'm open to any time of the day, though.
I could do either morning or afternoon.
I could do any day of that week except the 17th.
Well, the 18th, if.
Good Friday.
Romero is here.
Yeah, Good Friday.
Actually, I can't. I have to.
Is that Good Friday? Then that's actually a holiday.
That is Good Friday.
No wonder there's nothing on my calendar.
Could you do the 14th?
No, we don't come back. We're all at the HLC accreditation strategy forum, and we come back the night of the 14th.
Well, is there any way to do the 11th?
We leave on the 10th. It's a weekend thing.
Well, could you send us the material by the 17th or 18th, and then could we do a meeting the 21st?
Good?
A work session the 21st? We have a board meeting the 22nd, but
Right.
would that be enough time for you? Probably not.
Let me ask you this. This is going to be a crazy one. Is Brian still here? Yes. If we moved the board meeting to the 29th, would that work for board members, and would that give you enough time? If we did that, we could do the work session the week of the 21st or 22nd.
It won't work.
Won't work for you? Okay.
I already have another commitment out of town.
I think the effort, Mr. President, would be to try to have it correct at the meeting on the 29th, so that we
Right.
don't so much discussion, simply approving. And I do think it's easier.
The reason we've got to pick a date is because we have to do the public notice for a work session, which is our challenge. If we did a work session, Brian, if we did a work session on Monday, I mean, the 21st, then we have the rest of that day and the next day to finalize. Let's try that. Let's do a work session on Monday, the 21st, if that's possible.
Okay, so let's see, Pablo, the 21st, Monday, the 21st.
Do the 21st.
How early in the afternoon can we do that?
As staff, we can do any time you want on the 21st. So you want to do morning, you want to do 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 2 o'clock in the afternoon?
Prefer afternoon.
Okay.
I prefer afternoon too, but I prefer early afternoon.
2?
1?
2 or 1 is fine. Kathy, what about you?
I got a suggestion, if you could do this. How about if you come in like at 12:30, we do have a working lunch for everybody.
Will that
Kathy?
work for you?
Yeah, that'll work, that'll work.
12:30?
12:30, working lunch on the 21st?
First, okay.
Is that okay, Linda? Okay, cool.
And then our board meeting then would be on the 22nd.
The next day.
That's a long work day for you guys.
It'll be fresh in our minds.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
back
you.
to the board discussions for a moment. I think we really need to get back to working on our policies. And I think that April, it looks like we're going to be consumed with budgets, but that if we can think about a day in May where we could have a good chunk of time to kind of take up where we left off, although I'm not sure if we just need to start over again. We probably need to start over again with our policy work.
We probably need to think about not doing them all at once.
Right.
We probably need to think about which are the most important from your perspective, Randy, and then let's plan on maybe 2 sections at a time.
I agree. My only concern about doing anything in May is
Graduation.
end of the semester. If we could think about doing something starting in maybe in June, but I mean, I'm okay with having a meeting to prioritize that. We're already starting some work on some of them. We've kind of gone away from, just to let you know, from some of the councils and doing task forces. And so we've appointed a task force, or we're working on a task force to look at 1-11, which is shared governance, and 4- whatever our faculty workload is. So task force is looking at those.
What if we, and maybe we don't need a meeting for this, maybe we could have a subcommittee, but if we had something in May where we decide among ourselves the priorities and then set up a schedule for working on it in conjunction with you all. And the other thing we need to do is we need a board retreat. And that's not going to happen in May, but I think we need to find the day in June when we can have that retreat to also look at the board's priorities for the next year.
It would be also helpful, just in terms of doing something.
Very helpful.
And we need to get these dates locked in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or we'll never get a date when everyone can come.
Summer's already.
So, Mr. Chair, since you brought up the June situation, since we are rejoining Achieving the Dream, I have to be gone on what would normally be our June meeting date. So maybe we could tie a June meeting in with a board retreat, or, I mean, 2 separate things, but yeah.
2 separate days.
So I was going to ask if we could move the June meeting to the 4th Tuesday, unless Member Keith, do you have your board meeting on the 24th?
That may not work for me.
Okay.
I'm not sure yet.
Why don't I ask Donna to kind of poll the board about when in June we could both do a regular meeting and a retreat. I'm assuming, do you want to do it on a Friday or a Saturday?
We can do the Saturday.
Yeah, you want
Can't we?
Saturday.
Okay, so Donna, let's poll them and find out what weekends at work, and we'll set something.
Depends
No
on the
days good for
Saturday.
you.
Depends on.
You don't like Saturdays?
Saturdays are fine, it just depends on, my summer's kind of stacked up. And
I see.
On what Saturday? I'm taking what kid where to what camp, and I gotta pick them
Yeah,
up.
right.
Well,
Well, let's see.
let's get Donna to poll on
The board meeting date in June and then on the retreat
Yep.
Yeah,
date?
and-
Okay.
And then could we tonight find a day in May we could meet?
And the meeting is to prioritize
Is to talk about how we're going to
Look at the
do
policy.
the policies, how to prioritize them with input from the president.
Do you want to do that as part of the work session on before the May board meeting, because it will be after the budget? Could we do that in your work session
We
on
have
that
the
day?
GED graduation. Are you expecting anybody to be there for that?
It's nice if somebody shows up, but you don't have to. We haven't always had them there. Is that on the,
It's at 5 o'clock on the 20th.
Of what?
oh, yeah.
May.
May.
5 o'clock on the 20th.
Mr. Chair, I responded to Donna that I will be at most of the graduation, and including the GED.
It is, I don't think it's a requirement. I do need to be at GED ready.
Okay.
How long is that ceremony?
About an hour.
So-
It starts at 5, so do you want, could we move the board meeting a little bit later after that, or
Earlier?
earlier, have it earlier?
Are we talking about having the board?
May 20th, yes.
May 20th, the.
May 20th would be our regular board meeting day,
Oh, okay.
because this is the third Tuesday.
And you were suggesting at the work session, and you were suggesting a different date, correct?
Yeah, because the work session.
Yeah,
is
it
gonna
gets mixed
be
up.
Can be taken, yeah.
And especially since our meeting on the 20th is probably going to be moved up or back because of the graduation, it's probably better to pick a different time.
I agree.
For a kind of a work session around the policy.
How about the 12th or 13th of May?
I can do either one of those. How are those for you?
Granddaughter is graduating, getting her master's in.
Ah, well, you don't want to miss that. Okay.
So can we decide on a date now that we're together and?
That's what we're trying to do.
That's what we're trying to
Okay.
do.
12th or 13th is fine with me in the afternoon.
But it's not good for,
Oh, okay, Pablo, no, okay, no sweat then.
the next week is Memorial Day.
It is?
Well,
26th.
yeah, the 26th, and I'm gone. How about the 13th? Tuesday, the 13th?
Are you still gone then?
Oh, you're still gone.
I'll be back on
You'll
the
be
13th.
back?
I'll be back.
I could do the 13th.
May 13th?
Yeah, okay.
You'll be back, or will
wait
you
a
just
minute,
be
wait a
coming
minute.
back?
That's Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Tuesday, she's graduating on, actually on the 11th, which is a Saturday.
The
Right.
10th is a
It's
Saturday.
Sunday.
Oh, Sunday? No, then it's the 10th.
It's the 10th, okay.
And then, and I have to.
That's Mother's Day.
Travel to Texas, but I'll be back on that Tuesday,
By
because I have to get back.
We could do something in the afternoon, 4 o'clock or something?
Yeah.
That's great with me.
Okay, 4 o'clock.
So May 13th is a, 4
And this
o'clock
is
is a work
the-
session.
This is the
This
taking
is-
of.
Policy.
Oh,
This is a
policy.
semi-retreat.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's going to be a work session on policies.
Work session on policy,
We gotta
okay.
have notice and
Okay.
be screwed up like the last.
Yeah, really.
What time did we decide?
Like
4
4?
4 o'clock?
We'll send out, I'll work with Donna, we'll send out like a little master thing, both an email with all the dates, and then we'll send out Outlook meeting requests.
And then we're gonna try to find the date in June for a retreat.
Retreat and a board meeting.
And then another date for a board meeting.
Are there days when you're open on a Saturday at this point?
On
June?
a Saturday,
Good night, everyone.
June?
They've given up on us.
yes, I'm available on Saturday. I could be, I don't hang a plan on Saturdays.
Talking a Saturday in June?
At graduation.
So actually, I can do Saturdays because Sunday is the day
You
so
have to take,
Saturdays are good for me.
yeah,
good.
Sunday's usually when you pick up and deliver to
Right,
camp.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
How about the 14th then?
I've got that 3 weeks in a row in June. So
Of June?
Yeah.
that works for me.
14th, yeah, works for me.
That's, we're talking the retreat, right?
Right.
Okay.
June,
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we'd have to leave on Monday,
give me the date again in June, please.
14.
14th.
You have Achieving the Dream on the 17th through the 19th?
16th through the 19th. So
16th through the 19th.
I think we can travel on Monday or Sunday, I'm not
Sunday,
sure.
right. It's in,
Charlotte.
it's in Charlotte? Okay. I've forgotten where it is. Okay.
And the event on the 13th, on the,
May 13th?
May 14th.
So May 13th at 4,
June
May
no, June 14th.
June 14th is a
and May
board
13th.
retreat.
And that'll be 8 to 4 or 8, all day. Okay.
And then we'll still have to figure out the date for the regular board meeting.
And then we should probably have a July board meeting.
Well, we could miss June and do July. Since we miss one.
Well, we don't have to miss one. We have a lot to do.
I can see you're going to be a slave driver.
Okay.
All right, well, we'll figure that out.
Ready for closed session.
Okay. I move we go into closed session for the purpose of talking about potential litigation.
Motion?
That was it.
Second.
All right. All those in favor of going into closed session?
Aye.
I know.